I'm Candice Bakx-Friesen with Investor Smarts, and today we're going to be talking about house hacking. So that is a topic that everyone loves to talk about because people love to think of ways that they can live for free in their house, right? And so that's the whole basis of it is if you can have people move in, or if you can do an Airbnb within your house and all these different things, there's ways to be able to essentially live for free, which is a great way to start real estate investing. Especially if it's really hard to come up with, 25%, which is the way that you traditionally buy a rental home. And so some of the other benefits besides living for free would be that you can keep an eye on tenants better. And banks actually love to see owner-occupied rentals. So this could be from one unit up to maybe a fourplex where you're living in one of the units. Or like I said, it could be one unit where you have people living in different rooms in the same house. And so banks like this actually because then they think, well, if the owner's there, you have a better, you can keep an eye on the tenants better, right? And have a thumb on what's going on in the property. So those are two of the main benefits to house hacking. The other thing that you need to think about also is screening tenants, and you also need to still have proper contracts. So if this is sort of your first adventure into real estate investing and you're like, well, I know this guy kind of, I'll have him move into the house. And especially when you know people already, it's really hard to have these formal contracts because, well, I kind of know them, and how do I bring up a contract? It's awkward, it might be weird. But it's really important to, again, treat this like a business. So those are some of the things that you need to think about when you're doing the house hacking. There are some disadvantages as well. Always consider the pros and the cons in any big decision. But typically when you're doing house hacking, you're not having a beautiful property, right? So if you're approved up to $400,000 and you're thinking, well, maybe I'll buy a duplex or a triplex, depending on the market that you're in, you could probably buy a pretty nice house for that amount compared to what you can buy in a multifamily. And so you are usually giving up a bit of quality of life to be able to live in a house that you're doing house hacking or a small multifamily investment property. So those are things that you need to think about. Am I okay with a property that's not quite as nice, or maybe it's an area that's not as favorable? Those are big decisions to make. The other thing that you need to think about is, can you afford this property if the renter leaves? So maybe you have this guy that you kind of know take one of the bedrooms in your house. It's not working out well. He leaves and you're like, I'm never doing that again. Can you still afford the property without that rent coming in? So that's a huge thing that you need to think about. And again, when you have somebody move in, is your quality of life going up in terms of, are you spending more because now you have that money coming in? Then if the renter leaves, it feels like, oh my goodness, how am I going to make this happen? Because you start living up to the income level, which is common in anything, right? It could be your job. As soon as you start getting a raise, then people tend to start spending more too, right? And so those are some things to think about with house hacking. So do you want people living in your house? First of all, it's very different than when you've been living alone, right? Are you okay with a different quality of life? Because your quality of life can change. Now you don't have privacy anymore. And third, if it doesn't work out, are you still going to be okay with making the payments? So those are a few things to consider in the adventure of house hacking and having multifamily in close quarters where you're living. But like I said, there's also a lot of great benefits as well. So I'm Candice Bakx-Friesen with Investor Smarts, and be sure to tune in for future episodes with more investing tips and tricks.